Before Rolex ruled the wrists of billionaires, before it crowned rappers, royalty and CEOs. It started with a child, an orphan, no money, no parents, no connections, just a boy, staring at the ticking hands of a pocket watch, wondering, what if I could control time? This is the story you've never heard about Hans Wilsdorf, the boy who turned tragedy into triumph, who didn't just build a brand, he built a legacy that outlived him. This isn't just about watches. It's about obsession, pain, innovation, and a crown that came from absolutely nothing. Let's rewind the clock. Hans Wilsdorf was born in 1881 in Bavaria, Germany. He didn't grow up rich. In fact, by the time he turned 12, his life had already collapsed. Both of his parents died. He was orphaned, alone with his siblings, left to face the world without guidance, money, or protection. They were sent to a strict boarding school. No warmth, no luxury, just discipline. While other boys played sports or fought in the halls, Hans was different. He was quiet, curious, and obsessed with time. He would hold old pocket watches and study their gears, marveling at how such small mechanisms could track something as powerful as time. That obsession would never leave him. After school, Hans didn't go to college or inherit a family business. He took a job at a Swiss watch export firm called Kuno Korten. And while he wasn't making watches, he was learning the global business behind them. He studied markets, customer behavior, regional tastes. He noticed what people bought, what they ignored, and why. And he spotted something others dismissed: wristwatches. At the time, they were fragile trinkets, mostly for women. Real men used pocket watches. But Hans saw the future. He asked the question that would change everything. What if we created a wristwatch that was durable, accurate, and beautiful? In 1905, at just 24 years old, Hans moved to London, the economic heart of the world. There, he partnered with Alfred Davis to form a company, Wilsdorf and Davis. They didn't manufacture watches from scratch. They imported precision Swiss movements, placed them in quality British-made cases, and sold them across Europe. But Hans wasn't satisfied. He wanted more than just sales. He wanted a name, a brand, a symbol that would live on every wrist. He tested hundreds of words. He wanted it short, easy to pronounce, memorable, across languages. And then, during a ride on a horse-drawn carriage, it hit him: Rolex. He said it felt like a genie whispered it in his ear. Simple, elegant, luxurious, and just like that, a crown was born. But there was still a massive problem. Men didn't trust wristwatches. So Hans went on a mission to prove Rolex was more than fashion. It was precision. In 1910, Rolex became the first wristwatch to receive the Swiss certificate of chronometric precision. Then, in 1914, the Kew Observatory in England awarded Rolex their highest accuracy rating, a Class A certificate, typically reserved for naval chronometers. That changed everything. Rolex wasn't a toy anymore. It was a tool for professionals, trusted, respected, certified. Then came World War I, and as a German living in England, Hans found himself in danger. Anti-German sentiment swept the country, so, with little choice, he moved Rolex to Geneva, Switzerland, a country neutral in war but legendary in watchmaking. In 1920, he registered the company as Montre Rolex SA. The brand was now officially Swiss, and it was just getting started. Hans now focused on solving real-world problems. Watches, even the best ones, were still vulnerable to dust and water. So in 1926, Rolex unveiled a breakthrough: the Oyster, the world's first truly waterproof wristwatch. But people didn't believe it. Waterproof? That sounded like marketing fluff. So Hans took a bold step. In 1927, Rolex sponsored British swimmer Mercedes Gleitzer, who attempted to swim the English Channel wearing a Rolex Oyster on her wrist. She swam through freezing, salty water for over 10 hours. When she emerged, the watch was still ticking. No fog, no leaks, no damage. Hans didn't just celebrate quietly. He bought full-page newspaper ads the very next day. They read, "The Rolex Oyster," worn across the English Channel. It wasn't just a victory, it was a legend in the making. A few years later, in 1931, Rolex launched another innovation, the perpetual rotor, the first self-winding mechanism for wristwatches. Now, all you had to do was wear the watch, and your natural movement would keep it running. From here, Rolex became unstoppable. Every watch wasn't just a product, it was a mission. The Explorer, worn to the summit of Mount Everest in 1953. The Submariner, designed for deep-sea diving. The GMT Master, built for Pan Am pilots crossing global time zones. Each one tested, proven, worn by the world's elite achievers. Rolex didn't just sell watches, it sold ambition, precision, adventure. But even kings fall. In 1944, Hans Wilsdorf suffered a devastating loss. The death of his wife, Florence. She had been his partner through it all. They had no children, no heirs, and with his empire growing larger than ever, people assumed he would sell the company, retire, and fade away. But Hans did something no one expected. He gave it away. He created the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation and transferred 100% of Rolex's ownership to it. To this day, Rolex is not owned by any individual. No shareholders, no stock market drama, no hostile takeovers. Just a private, charitable trust that reinvests profits into the company or donates them to education, science, and humanitarian causes. Think about that. The most powerful, most desired luxury watch brand in the world is owned by no one, just the way Hans wanted it. Hans Wilsdorf passed away in 1960, but his legacy, it still ticks. Rolex remains a symbol of excellence, worn by rappers, presidents, astronauts, and athletes. But behind every polished case and diamond bezel is the story of a boy, an orphan who refused to let time beat him. He turned pain into purpose, tragedy into timekeeping, and built a legacy so strong it became eternal. So the next time you see a gold crown on someone's wrist, know it's more than luxury. It's a symbol of resilience. And it all started with one orphan boy who simply loved the sound of ticking gears. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Smash that, like, drop a crown emoji in the comments, and let me know what watch story we should break down next. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell. Because at Wrist Guru, we don't just flex watches, we flex the stories behind them. Catch you in the next drop.